What would you do if you were in the altar, about to say, "I do," and your ex showed up with a secret that could turn everything upside down? Maddie is about to reveal a truth that will shatter William's world. Will he choose ambition or family? Why did she wait so long to reveal it? And how will William handle the consequences of his past choices? The grand ballroom shimmered under the glow of crystal chandeliers, their light reflecting off the gold-trimmed walls. Guests in elegant attire mingled, their laughter and chatter filling the air. At the center of it all stood William Wright, impeccably dressed in a tailored black tuxedo, his expression a mix of pride and relief. Beside him, Ariel Morgan radiated confidence in her lace wedding gown, her smile sharp and triumphant. This was the culmination of William's dreams, a life of success, status, and control. The ceremony began, the officiant's voice echoing through the room. William's mind wandered briefly, a flicker of something unnameable tugging at him. He pushed it aside, focusing on Ariel's poised demeanor. She was everything he thought he needed: ambitious, driven, and unapologetically focused on success, just like him. As the officiant reached the pivotal moment, the doors at the back of the ballroom creaked open. A hush fell over the crowd as all heads turned. There, silhouetted against the soft light of the hallway, stood Maddie Olson. Her presence was calm but commanding, her auburn hair catching the light. She held the hands of 3 young girls, each dressed in matching ivory dresses, their wide eyes taking in the scene. William froze, his breath catching in his throat. Maddie. The name alone sent a flood of memories rushing back: her laughter, her dreams, the way she had once looked at him with unwavering love. But that was years ago. Why was she here? And who were these children? Maddie walked forward, her step steady, her daughters trailing behind her. The guests parted like a sea, whispers erupting as they recognized her. Ariel's smile faltered, her eyes narrowing as she glanced between Maddie and William. "William," Maddie said, her voice clear and unwavering. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's something you need to know." William's heart pounded. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Maddie's gaze softened as she looked at the girls, then back at him. "These are your daughters," she said, her tone gentle but firm. "Mia, Lily, and Zoe." The room erupted in gasps. William's vision blurred as he stared at the girls. They were unmistakably his, with his dark eyes and Maddie's smile. Mia, the tallest, stood protectively in front of her sisters, her expression guarded. Lily fidgeted nervously, while Zoe peeked out from behind Maddie's skirt, her curiosity evident. Ariel's face turned crimson. "What is this?" she demanded, her voice sharp enough to cut through the tension. Maddie turned to her, her demeanor calm but resolute. "This isn't about you. It's about them." She gestured to the girls. "They deserve to know their father." William's mind raced. How could this be? He had no idea, no clue. His eyes met Maddie's, searching for answers, but all he saw was quiet strength. The officiant stood awkwardly, unsure how to proceed. Guests exchanged shocked glances, some pulling out their phones to capture the scene. Ariel stepped forward, her voice trembling with anger. "You think you can just show up here and ruin everything?" Maddie shook her head. "I'm not here to ruin anything. I'm here for them." She looked at William again, her eyes pleading. "They've waited long enough." William's chest tightened. He glanced at the girls, their innocent faces a mirror of his own guilt. He had been so focused on his career, his success, his image. Had he really missed this? Missed them? The room seemed to spin around him as Ariel stormed off, her dress trailing behind her. The guests erupted into chaos, some following Ariel, others lingering to watch the drama unfold. William barely noticed. His attention was fixed on Maddie and the girls. "Why now?" he finally managed to ask, his voice barely above a whisper. Maddie's expression softened. "Because they're old enough to understand. And because you deserve to know the truth." The weight of her words settled over him, heavy and unrelenting. This was no longer about his wedding, his career, or his carefully constructed life. This was about 3 little girls who had grown up without him. As the chaos around them continued, William knelt down, his eyes level with the girls. "Hi," he said, his voice trembling. "I'm your dad." Mia crossed her arms, her gaze skeptical. Lily tilted her head, studying him with curiosity. Zoe smiled shyly, her small hand reaching out to touch his. In that moment, William's world shifted. The life he had built with success, status, and control felt hollow compared to the three pairs of eyes staring back at him. The whispers of the guests faded into the background, replaced by the pounding of his own heartbeat. He had no idea what came next, but one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same. The days following the wedding were a blur for Maddie. She replayed the scene in her mind. The gasps of the guests, Ariel's furious exit, William's stunned face. But most of all, she thought about her daughters. Mia had been quiet on the ride home, her arms crossed as she stared out the window. Lily had bombarded Maddie with questions, her curiosity outweighing her confusion. Zoe, ever the optimist, had simply said, "I think Daddy liked us." Maddie sighed as she sat at the kitchen table, a cup of tea cooling in front of her. The house was quiet now, the girls asleep in their shared room. She glanced at the stack of bills on the counter, a constant reminder of the life she had built on her own. It hadn't been easy, but she had done it for them. Her mind drifted back to the beginning, to the days after William had walked away. She had been so young, so full of dreams. They had met in college, two opposites drawn together by an inexplicable pull. William was ambitious, driven, his eyes always on the horizon. Maddie was a dreamer, her head filled with stories and her heart with hope. For a while, they balanced each other. But as William's career in agriculture took off, the distance between them grew. The night he ended things, Maddie had been devastated. She had loved him, believed in him, even when he became consumed by his work. But when he told her he couldn't give her the life she wanted, that his career had to come first, she had let him go. It wasn't until weeks later that she discovered she was pregnant. The news had been overwhelming. 3 heartbeats, the doctor had said. Triplets. Maddie had sat in the parking lot after the appointment, her hands trembling on the steering wheel. She thought about calling William, telling him the truth, but she knew him too well. He would have stayed out of obligation, not love. And Maddie refused to trap him in a life he didn't want. So she made a choice. She would raise her daughters on her own. The early years were a blur of sleepless nights and endless sacrifices. Maddie worked multiple jobs, writing freelance articles during nap times and late into the night. She sold her car to pay for diapers and baby formula, relying on public transportation to get around. There were days when she felt like she was drowning, but she kept going, for Mia, Lily, and Zoe. As the girls grew, so did Maddie's strength. She found solace in her writing, pouring her heart into stories that celebrated resilience and love. Her first book, a collection of essays about single motherhood, was published when the girls were 4. It wasn't a bestseller, but it was a start. Still, there were moments when the weight of it all threatened to crush her. Like the time Mia came home from school, tears streaming down her face because a classmate had asked why she didn't have a dad. Or the night Lily woke up screaming from a nightmare, and Maddie had to hold her until the sun rose. And then there was Zoe, who had started drawing pictures of a man with a big smile, labeling him Daddy in her childish scrawl. Maddie had always known this day would come. She had rehearsed the conversation in her mind 1,000 times, imagining how she would tell William about the girls. But when the wedding invitation arrived, she hesitated. Was it fair to disrupt his life? To upend hers? In the end, it wasn't about fairness. It was about her daughters. They deserved to know their father, and William deserved to know them. Now, as she sat in the quiet kitchen, Maddie wondered if she had made the right choice. The girls had been brave at the wedding, but she could see the uncertainty in their eyes. They had so many questions, and Maddie didn't have all the answers. She stood and walked to the girls' room, pushing the door open gently. Mia was sprawled across her bed, her hair tangled against the pillow. Lily was curled up with her favorite stuffed bear, her face peaceful in sleep. Zoe had kicked off her blankets, her tiny hand clutching a drawing of a family. A mom, 3 girls, and a man with a big smile. Maddie's heart ached as she smoothed Zoe's hair and tucked the blanket around her. She had done her best, but she couldn't protect them from everything. William was part of their story now, whether she liked it or not. She returned to the kitchen, her resolve hardening. Whatever came next, she would face it. The house was silent, the only sound the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. Maddie picked up her tea, now cold, and poured it down the sink. She had a feeling the days ahead would be anything but quiet. The morning after the wedding, William woke with a pounding headache and a heavy sense of dread. The events of the previous day played on a loop in his mind. Maddie's calm voice, the girl's wide eyes, Ariel's furious exit. He had spent the night in a hotel, unable to face the empty penthouse that was supposed to be his new home with Ariel. He sat on the edge of the bed, his head in his hands. The weight of Maddie's revelation pressed down on him, suffocating and unrelenting. 3 daughters. He had 3 daughters. How had he not known? How had he missed it? His phone buzzed incessantly on the nightstand. A barrage of missed calls and messages from Ariel, his business partners, and the media. He ignored them all, his thoughts consumed by the image of the girls. He had to see them. He had to understand. By midday, William found himself standing outside Maddie's modest home, a bouquet of flowers clutched awkwardly in his hand. The house was small but charming, with a well-tended garden and a swing set in the backyard. It was nothing like the sprawling estates he was used to, but it felt warm, lived in. He knocked on the door, his heart racing. Maddie opened it, her expression unreadable. She looked tired, but her eyes were steady. "William," she said, her voice calm. "Maddie," he replied, his voice cracking. He held out the flowers, feeling foolish. "I didn't know what else to bring." She took the flowers with a small nod and stepped aside to let him in. The house was cozy, filled with the sounds of children's laughter and the faint hum of a cartoon playing in the background. William's chest tightened as he spotted the girls in the living room. Mia sat on the couch, her arms crossed, her eyes narrowing as she saw him. Lily was on the floor, surrounded by crayons and paper, while Zoe perched on the arm of the couch, her attention flickering between the TV and the stranger in the doorway. "Girls," Maddie said gently, "this is William. He's here to talk to us." Mia's jaw tightened, but she didn't say anything. Lily looked up, her curiosity piqued. Zoe tilted her head, studying him with a mix of curiosity and hope. William stepped further into the room, feeling out of place in his tailored suit. He knelt down, trying to meet the girls at their level. "Hi," he said, his voice soft. "I'm your dad." The words felt strange on his tongue, foreign and heavy. Mia's expression didn't change, but Lily's eyes widened. "Really?" Lily asked, her voice tinged with excitement. William nodded, a lump forming in his throat. "Really?" Zoe slid off the couch and approached him cautiously. "Do you like pancakes?" she asked, her voice small but earnest. William blinked, caught off guard. Yeah, I love pancakes." Zoe smiled, and for a moment, the weight in his chest lifted. But then Mia stood, her arms still crossed. "Where have you been?" she demanded, her voice sharp. William flinched, the question cutting deeper than he expected. He looked at Maddie, who gave him a small, encouraging nod. "I didn't know about you," he admitted, his voice trembling. "If I had, I would have been here. I promise." Mia didn't look convinced, but she didn't say anything else. Lily, ever the mediator, piped up. "Do you want to see my drawings?" William nodded, grateful for the distraction. He sat on the floor with Lily, letting her show him her colorful creations. Zoe joined in, chattering excitedly about her favorite characters. Mia stayed on the couch, her gaze never leaving him. Maddie watched from the kitchen, her heart aching as she saw the tentative connections forming. She had known this would be hard, but seeing the pain and uncertainty in William's eyes made it real in a way she hadn't anticipated. As the afternoon wore on, William found himself relaxing slightly. Lily's enthusiasm was infectious, and Zoe's innocence was disarming. Even Mia's guarded demeanor softened a little, though she still kept her distance. But the tension was still there, simmering beneath the surface. William knew this was just the beginning. He had missed so much: first steps, first words, birthdays, holidays. He couldn't undo that, but he could try to make up for it. When it was time to leave, William stood awkwardly by the door, unsure of how to say goodbye. The girls watched him, their expressions a mix of curiosity and uncertainty. "I'll come back," he promised, his voice firm. "If that's okay with you." Maddie nodded, her expression unreadable. "We'll see." William stepped outside, the cool evening air a stark contrast to the warmth of the house. He walked to his car, his mind racing. This wasn't going to be easy. There would be challenges, setbacks, and difficult conversations. But he felt a sense of purpose that went beyond his career, his success, his image. He had a family, and he wasn't going to let them down again. The streetlights flickered on as he drove away, the house growing smaller in his rearview mirror. Inside, Maddie closed the door and leaned against it, her heart heavy but hopeful. The girls were already back to their routines, their laughter filling the house once more. Life would never be the same, but that wasn't such a bad thing. William's visits became a regular occurrence. At first, they were awkward and stilted, filled with long silences and hesitant conversations. But slowly, he began to find his footing. He brought small gifts: books for Mia, art supplies for Lily, and a stuffed bunny for Zoe. He tried to engage them in activities, though it was clear he was out of his depth. One Saturday afternoon, William arrived with a ball, determined to bond with the girls. Maddie watched from the kitchen window as he attempted to teach them how to dribble. Mia stood with her arms crossed, refusing to participate. Lily tried her best but quickly grew frustrated when she couldn't keep up. Zoe, ever the optimist, giggled as she chased the ball around the yard, her tiny legs pumping furiously. Maddie couldn't help but smile as she watched William kneel down to help Zoe, his patience evident despite his obvious inexperience. He was trying, and that counted for something. Inside, Mia sat at the kitchen table, her face a mask of indifference. Maddie set a cup of hot chocolate in front of her and took a seat. "You don't have to like him," Maddie said gently. "But he's trying. That's worth something, isn't it?" Mia shrugged, stirring her drink with a spoon. "He left us. Why should we care if he's trying now?" Maddie sighed, choosing her words carefully. "People make mistakes, Mia. Sometimes they don't realize what they've lost until it's too late. He didn't know about you, but now he does. And he wants to be part of your lives." Mia didn't respond, but Maddie could see the conflict in her eyes. She was old enough to understand the complexity of the situation, but young enough to feel the sting of abandonment. Outside, William was sitting on the grass, his suit pants now stained with dirt. Lily sat beside him, her earlier frustration replaced by curiosity. "Do you have a big house?" she asked, her eyes wide. William chuckled, a hint of self-consciousness in his voice. "Yeah, I guess it's pretty big. Can we see it?" William hesitated, glancing toward the house. "I'd have to talk to your mom about that." Zoe plopped down in his lap, her stuffed bunny clutched tightly. "I like your car," she said matter-of-factly. William smiled, ruffling her hair. "Thanks, darling." As the weeks passed, William's efforts began to pay off. Lily warmed up to him quickly, her natural curiosity making her eager to learn more about her father. Zoe adored him, her innocent heart quick to forgive. One evening, after the girls had gone to bed, William stayed behind to talk to Maddie. They sat on the porch, the cool night air a welcome respite from the day's chaos. "Thank you," William said quietly, "for giving me this chance." Maddie nodded, her gaze fixed on the stars. "It's not about me, William. It's about them. They deserve to know their father." William sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I know I've got a long way to go. Mia still hates me." "She doesn't hate you," Maddie corrected. "She's hurt, and she's scared. Give her time." William nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I will. I don't want to mess this up." Maddie turned to him, her eyes soft but firm. "Then don't. Be there for them. Show up even when it's hard. That's all they need. The conversation lingered in William's mind as he drove home that night. He had spent so much of his life chasing success, building an empire, proving himself to the world. But now his priorities were shifting. The girls were his legacy, not his business. The next day, William surprised everyone by showing up with a picnic basket and a blanket. He had taken the day off work, something he rarely did. The girls were skeptical at first, but the promise of sandwiches and cookies won them over. They spent the afternoon at the park, the girls running and laughing as William and Maddie watched from the blanket. It felt like they were a family, imperfect, fractured, but together. As the sun began to set, Mia sat down beside William, her expression thoughtful. "Why did you leave?" she asked, her voice quiet but steady. William's heart ached at the question. He looked at her, his eyes filled with regret. "I was selfish," he admitted. "I thought success and money would make me happy. But I was wrong. I didn't realize what I was missing until it was too late." Mia studied him, her gaze searching. "Do you really want to be here? Or are you just feeling guilty?" William took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. "I want to be here, more than anything. I know I don't deserve a second chance, but I'm going to do everything I can to earn it." Mia didn't respond, but she didn't pull away either. It was a small step, but it was progress. As they packed up to leave, William felt optimistic. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but he was determined to walk it, one step at a time. Maddie watched him as he helped the girls into the car, her heart heavy but hopeful. They had a long way to go, and she felt like they were moving in the right direction. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the park. The laughter of the girls echoed in the distance, a reminder of what truly mattered. Life was messy, complicated, and unpredictable, but sometimes it was also beautiful. William's transformation became more evident with each passing week. He began to step back from his business, delegating responsibilities to his trusted team so he could spend more time with the girls. His penthouse, once a symbol of his success, felt emptier than ever. He found himself drawn to Maddie's modest home, where the walls were filled with laughter and the air was warm with love. One Saturday, William arrived with a toolbox in hand. The girls' swing set had seen better days, and he had promised to fix it. Maddie watched from the porch as he worked, his sleeves rolled up and his brow furrowed in concentration. Lily and Zoe hovered nearby, handing him tools and asking endless questions. Even Mia lingered in the background, her curiosity outweighing her reluctance. "Why do you need that wrench thing?" Lily asked, her nose scrunched in confusion. William smiled, wiping sweat from his forehead. "It helps tighten the bolts so the swing doesn't wobble." Zoe clapped her hands. "I want to swing first when it's done." "We'll see," William said with a chuckle. Maddie brought out a pitcher of lemonade, setting it on the picnic table. "Take a break," she said, handing William a glass. He accepted it gratefully, sitting down beside her. The girls ran off to play, their laughter echoing through the yard. "You're good with them," Maddie said, her tone soft but genuine. William shook his head. "I'm learning. They're amazing. You've done an incredible job raising them." Maddie smiled, but there was a hint of sadness in her eyes. "It hasn't been easy, but they're worth it." William hesitated, then asked the question that had been weighing on him. "Do you think they'll ever forgive me?" Maddie looked at him, her gaze steady. "They already are. Even Mia. She just needs more time." William nodded, his heart aching with a mix of hope and guilt. He had missed so much, but he was determined to make up for lost time. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, William sat on the porch with Mia. She had been quieter than usual, her guarded demeanor slowly giving way to curiosity. "Can I ask you something?" she said, her voice tentative. "Of course," William replied, his heart skipping a beat. "Why did you leave, Mom?" The question hit him like a punch to the gut. He took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. "I was selfish," he admitted. "I thought success and money would make me happy. But I was wrong. I didn't realize what I was missing until it was too late. Mia studied him, her gaze searching. Do you regret it? Every day, William said, his voice thick with emotion. But I can't change the past. All I can do is try to be better now. Mia didn't respond, but she didn't pull away either. It was a small step, but it was progress. As the weeks turned into months, William's efforts began to pay off. Lily and Zoe adored him, their innocent hearts quick to forgive. Even Mia started to soften, though she kept her distance, watching him with a wary eye. Life's a roller coaster, full of ups and downs and unexpected twists. But even in the chaos, there's always something beautiful to be found. The holidays arrived, bringing with them a sense of warmth and togetherness that William hadn't experienced in years. Maddie's home was filled with the scent of freshly baked cookies, the sound of Christmas carols, and the laughter of the girls as they decorated the tree. William stood in the doorway, watching the scene with a mixture of awe and gratitude. Zoe spotted him first, her face lighting up. "Daddy, come help us." William smiled, stepping into the room. He picked up a string of lights, carefully untangling it as Lily handed him ornaments. Mia stood back, her arms crossed, but there was a softness in her eyes that hadn't been there before. "This one's my favorite," Lily said, holding up a handmade ornament. "Mom and I made it last year." William took it gently, examining the glittery snowflake. "It's beautiful," he said, his voice sincere. Maddie appeared from the kitchen, her hands dusted with flour. "Who's ready for cookies?" The girls cheered, abandoning the tree in favor of the kitchen. William followed, feeling a sense of belonging that he hadn't felt in years. As they sat around the table, the girls chattering excitedly, William caught Maddie's eye. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for letting me be part of this." Maddie smiled, her expression warm. "You're their father, William. This is where you belong." The words settled over him, filling the empty spaces in his heart. He had spent so much of his life chasing success, but it was here, in this small kitchen, that he found true fulfillment. The days leading up to Christmas were filled with joy and laughter. William took the girls ice skating, his clumsiness on the ice earning him endless teasing from Lily and Zoe. Mia even cracked a smile, though she tried to hide it. On Christmas morning, the girls woke early, their excitement palpable. They tore into their presents, their laughter filling the room. William watched, his heart swelling with love. Zoe held up a stuffed bunny, her eyes wide with delight. "It's just like the one Daddy gave me." Lily admired her new art supplies, already planning her next masterpiece. Mia opened her gift, a leather-bound journal, and looked at William with a hint of surprise. "I thought you might like to write your stories," he said, his voice tentative. Mia nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "Thanks." It was a simple moment, but it meant the world to William. As the day went on, William found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought him here. He had been so focused on his career, on building an empire, that he had lost sight of what truly mattered. But now, surrounded by his family, he understood that success wasn't measured by wealth or status. It was measured by the love and connections he had built. That evening, as the girls played with their new toys, William sat beside Maddie on the couch. The fire crackled in the hearth, casting a warm glow over the room. "I've been thinking," William said, his voice quiet, "about what comes next." Maddie looked at him, her expression curious. "What do you mean?" "I want to be more involved," he said. "Not just as a visitor, but as a father. I want to be there for them. For all of you." Maddie studied him, her gaze searching. "Are you sure? This isn't just about guilt or obligation, is it?" William shook his head. "No, this is about love, about family. I've spent so much of my life chasing the wrong things. I don't want to make that mistake again." Maddie smiled, her eyes soft. "Then we'll figure it out. Together." The words filled William with a sense of hope and determination. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but he was ready to face it, with Maddie and the girls by his side. As the fire crackled and the girls' laughter filled the room, William felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. He had found his true measure of success, and it was more beautiful than he had ever imagined. The holidays passed in a blur of joy and togetherness, but the memories lingered, a reminder of what truly mattered. William had come a long way, but he knew this was just the beginning. Life's a wild ride, full of twists, turns, and unexpected surprises. But it was also filled with love, hope, and the promise of new beginnings. And for William, that was enough. Success isn't measured by wealth or status, but by the love and connections we nurture. What would you have done in William's shoes? Could you forgive and rebuild? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to embrace the journey for more emotional tales.